Welcome to the House of David, Life Everlasting, a PBS television series that will chronicle the life and times of the House of David. We are so happy that you're with us, but before we move on, we have to tell you about our underwriters. Those are the folks that helped us bring you this presentation.
Telling incredible stories and keeping the past alive, Moondog Productions is proud to bring you the great history of the House of David in Southwest Michigan. Find out more about Moondog Productions by going online to moondogpro.net.
The House of David Museum is proud to tell the stories of Southwest Michigan's rich history. Located in St. Joseph, Michigan, the House of David Museum has a wide array of memorabilia for your viewing pleasure. To schedule a tour, call 269-325-0039.
Post-production facilities provided by True Blue Farms in Grand Junction, Michigan. True Blue Farms has been contributing to the overall health and wellness to people all over the world for over 100 years with blueberries. Find out more at truebluefarms.com.
Telling Southwest Michigan's history through radio and podcast. Rob Byrd's Moondog Show and the House of David podcast are happy to be a part of telling this great story. Find Rob Byrd's Moondog Show or the House of David podcast at podbean.com.
Thank you for staying with us. I'm your host, Rob Byrd. On this episode, we're going to be taking a peek at High Island, an island that's been shrouded in mystery for many years. After that, Chris Siriano will join me in the studio to discuss it a little bit further. Then we'll take a look at Mary's Fireproof Hotel in Benton Harbor, Michigan, and the state that it's in today. Chris and I will also do a short feature on Harry Kirkham, who I believe is one of the most important members to have ever joined the House of David, just because of all the pictures that he took. So we'll see you shortly back here in the studio. Enjoy. The House of David had holdings all over the world, but one of the most important was an island in the middle of northern Lake Michigan. Ben saw the opportunities that came with the lumber industry and knew the power he had behind the members of the colony.
Ben bought a place called High Island back, I think about 1909, and it's a 2,600 acre island out in the middle of Lake Michigan, just past Beaver Island. There's three islands, Hassel Island, Beaver Island, and High Island off the coast of Charlevoix. And he bought the island because he wanted to get into the exotic timber business. Because Michigan was the leading place in America for really high-end furniture, mainly because of the Grand Rapids furniture industry. High Island was known to have amazing virgin timbers of exotic timbers that weren't grown anywhere else, especially to that size and that quality. I have the original deed that he had from High Island that I bought at auction. So he bought that island because there was a sawmill there already. And the island was inhabited by Native American Indians. And so when the House of David took over that island, they moved a lot of their really talented lumber guys there, and also their farmers, because you could grow, instead of growing a potato like that, you could grow a potato like that. And so the fruit industry was like off the hook, like Galapagos Island stuff.
I made the mistake once upon a time. I'd been invited to give a lecture, and they wanted to know what we should title it. I said, title it House of David Siberia of House of David. Well, I shouldn't have titled it that way, because obviously my lecture, if you listen to what I had to say, it was not a Siberia or a penal colony ever. But one of the people that was listening or not listening became very irate at the end. How can you do this? How can you call this a penal colony? All that kind of thing. But they had, as they bought that, the lumbering rights on that island, and that isn't their first attempt at that. They had already had a very profitable lumbering operation just north of Beulah, Michigan, on the mainland, shall we say. But that had petered out. A cedar forest had petered out. They were looking for more. 1912, they get the lumbering rights, and they bought 80 acres of land outright there on the colony, on the island. Since the initial logging or people up there to start some logging. There was an old sawmill there that they renovated and got everything going, and they will make that a profitable business. By 1914, that is a profitable business. They even had their own steamship that they had purchased to haul lumber back and forth.
And so they sent these groups of guys on their cruise ships. The Rising Sun and the Morning Star would sail, and even Roosevelt was a tall sail ship that the House of David had at the time. They would send their people up there to work on High Island and run these sawmills, and they had cabins that they stayed in. They had a schoolhouse that they kept their kids educated. And the Native American Indians that were on High Island had traditionally hated the white man and sabotaged what they tried to do on High Island. They embraced the House of David as the holy man. So somehow the House of David got the point across that we're not going to harm you, we're going to help you. And so the Native Americans that were on High Island actually gave their labor free to the House of David. House of David in turn taught the Indian kids in the schools and taught them about God. And so it was a beautiful thing.
They first went to school in the church, but then together, the natives and the Israelites built a small school next to the church. And natives went to school there along with the House of David young people almost always. And I think always. I never had a report of a young Israelite woman going to school there. In fact, of people that did not want to go to the island, as you can imagine, young teenage girls did not want to go to that island. There were a few younger girls that had gone, and some girls went up on a visit at times, ostensibly for a vacation, but that, of course, gets debated too. So it was usually young boys. And then the school they had went up to the 8th grade.
The people back home at the House of David Park or the House of David Farms, if they got a little bit unruly or they didn't follow the rules, strict guidelines, they would get a warning. Well, maybe they would get 2 warnings. And then at the second warning or the third warning, they go, okay, you're going to get on the cruise ship, you're going to get on the Rising Sun, and you're going to go to High Island. And you're not going to come off. That's it. You don't come off. There's 60 miles of water between High Island and the mainland. So it's, the media call it the Siberia of Michigan. I interviewed people that lived on High Island with the House of David, and they said it was like a paradise. They loved it. So it wasn't really a penal colony in a way. I mean, it was a way to discipline people, but they ended up loving life.
One of the most cherished possessions that I ever received was from Melvin Tucker. In talking with Melvin Tucker in the rest home that the City of David had right there on their grounds, Melvin Tucker gave me a Christmas card, which was about a 2-inch by 1-inch card, just a little card, Christmas card that was given to him by his teacher in that one-room school.
But it was a disciplinary island, so you got sent up there, and if you wanted to eat, you had to work. You didn't get to eat for just standing around. They would make you work, and then you would earn your keep at night. And that went on. There's definitely stories in history that I've discovered that there was a number of females that got sent to High Island because they were pregnant. And of course, that wasn't supposed to happen. And then the coroner report of Charlevoix County would say this girl died of eating poison mushrooms. I'm not quite sure about all that dark part that happened up there, but it did happen. You know, there was people, they were sent there to not come home. And there's fascinating stories that Ramon Nelson told me that wrote the book called Island Life, Island Toil. And he loved it there. He lived there. And then he came home, I think in maybe late teens, early 20s. And he said that every winter, there was 2 boys assigned to, when the lake froze over, every winter there was 2 boys assigned to go out and cut off little pine trees and plant like a path like Hansel and Gretel. So and they would dig holes in the ice, and they'd plant these pine trees so they would have a visual to get over to get the mail. And they would go, their job was to go get the mail in Charlevoix and bring it back to the House of David. And he said there was a few times that those boys, the blizzards would hit unexpectedly. How do you know? You don't have a weather channel back then. So they're on their walk or their run or whatever sled to get the mail in the mainland, and they would not come back. They'd disappear. So he said, sometimes we didn't know if they chose to not come back, or maybe they hit the train and they left and didn't come back, because I have stories of that too. Or they just got blown away and lost out in Lake Michigan and never to be found again. After Ben's death, they shut down, and so they pulled all the people back to the House of David, and it sat there for quite a number of years. And then in 1953, a guy by the name of Warren Townsend, him and his father had this mammoth furniture industry in Grand Rapids, making really beautiful, elaborate furniture. They bought the island from the House of David. I interviewed Warren Townsend, and I have it all documented, the whole story. Thank God, the guy was even alive. He was in his 80s when I called him, and the son. And he said, Chris, it was an unbelievable story. And we bought the island for really cheap. The House of David just wanted their money back. There was a beautiful sawmill there. And he said, we started there working, getting the exotic timbers. It was very grown up. He said, but the Indians hated us. And they hated us, and they told us to go home. And we bought the island for the reason of the lumber. And he said they didn't want us there, so they sabotaged our sawmill and burned it down to the ground. So he said we paid to have a state-of-the-art sawmill built on the mainland, and it floated it over and installed the new sawmill a couple years later on High Island. And guess what? They burned it down again. And he said after that, we were like, we're done. We donated it to the DNR, and that's where it sits to this day. So, I had people come in just 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it, but a guy had gone to High Island a lot of years ago, and still the big docks where the steamships would pull in to load the lumber, the docks, the pieces of the dock were still there. All the dwellings were gone. But around the dwellings were still, like, the daffodils still come up around the outside of the houses, and the flowers still come up on the trails through the woods, but there's no buildings. But he said that they found this huge spike where they built the dock, the steamship dock from, and he donated it to the museum. So if you go there, it's just a deserted island now, but there is definitely evidence of life there at one time.
Welcome back to the studio. Chris Siriano is here, and as you saw, Chris, we just watched about a 10-minute piece or so on High Island, which was part of the House of David Life Everlasting documentary. What was High Island all about?
In the beginning, it was a lumber island. It was purchased by Benjamin early on, I think 1909, and as a lumber camp. And because the House of David needed timber for construction of their buildings in Benton Harbor, and they saw the need for lumber, exotic timber that was on High Island. They acquired that, and then from there it was a heck of a journey.
Some speculated maybe even a penal colony, that if someone got out of line at the House of David in Benton Harbor, or decided they didn't want to do something or whatever it may be, that they might have been sent there to maybe adjust their attitudes a little bit.
Very likely. Yeah. I think, history shows that they had beautiful exotic timber, virgin timber, that was on High Island that they made a fortune on, and they would send their own steamship up the Rising Sun in the Roosevelt sailing ship and get loads of lumber, bring them back to Benton Harbor, take some to Milwaukee, Chicago. They made a fortune on it. But the story is a lot of the House of David people were invited to go there that were kind of lumberjack guys and their boys, and so they loved it and they wanted to be there.
They also grew some vegetables, as you saw in that clip, that were They were ginormous, I guess, as if that's a word.
It was like, what do you call it? Galapagos Island, you know? The potatoes and the vegetables were absolutely ginormous, huge. The biggest probably ever recorded.
Right.
And it was because of that soil that was out in the middle of Lake
Yeah.
Michigan that was never touched.
Yeah.
And, you know, the island was inhabited by Native American Indians that ended up loving the House of David people and thought they were the holy men. So
Right.
they welcomed them.
And they didn't like the white man when the white man was around. Now, we don't have really much time to go into it because we also want to talk a little bit about the Mary's Fireproof Hotel. And downtown Benton Harbor, it's been sitting there for a long time, really looking for someone to take it and turn it into something magnificent again. What is the state of Mary's Fireproof Hotel?
Yeah, so that building was built as the House of David Hotel in 1920-21, finished in 22, and then that's the year that Ben went into hiding. So they stopped construction. It was supposed to be 7 stories tall and a whole city block long. So it's not quite as big. It's still 44,000 square feet. It's spectacular. It's a very majestic building, all made with magnificent carved stone that John Heron, one of their masons, created.
Yeah.
And so that today, it's 100 years later, just over, and it's still in great structural condition.
The bones are good.
The bones are good.
Yeah.
The whole thing needs to be renovated. All the mechanicals. It is on the market.
Yeah.
We do have a buyer buyers that are looking at putting it back together. It's not going to be a cheap proposition.
Well, what everybody's seeing right now going across the screen are some of the pictures that we took a couple years ago inside of it. And I kept out for PBS, the ones that were a little more explicit than others.
Thank you.
You can actually probably go find that video on the House of David Museum's YouTube channel. And you will see those right away. But there's some pictures that obviously when those that go in there and do some artwork, it typically sometimes isn't real nice. So we left some of those out, but as you can see where they are, and we started right from the bottom floor all the way up to the bird level, which is what it's, there should be a picture of it right now where it's spray painted on there, and nobody's supposed to go up there because it's kind of toxic. It's where all the pigeons have left their.
You need a mask on.
Yes. I went in there for about 5 minutes, and I've never been the same. But you can see, just being in that building, how if you can use your imagination, and hopefully we've got some pictures that I can show you of when it was in its heyday too. But use your imagination for what it must have been like back in the day.
Yeah, like the Palace of Versailles. Absolutely spectacular.
Mary's Fireproof Hotel, what kind of a center was it?
It was the hub. It was definitely the center of attention for the city of Benton Harbor when it was finally rolling. And it really was like full blast on in the mid-1920s. By 1928, Mary, Benjamin Purnell's wife, acquired the hotel and changed the name to Mary's Hotel, Mary's Fireproof Hotel. At that time, she opened up a huge vegetarian restaurant on the north side of it. She had a bakery, their own bakery, and then there was Keeter's TV and radio shop. There was a frame shop. There was 5 retail stores on the main level, and then it was really beautiful hotel rooms.
How many rooms did it have, or does it have?
I think 102.
Yeah, big rooms, and it's got this great courtyard in the middle. Which is actually, I think, if you were on it, you'd be on second or third floor up there. And what a great place that would be, I think for live music and something for that, if someone were to get back into it. With the upcoming growth or the revitalization of Benton Harbor, how big of a deal do you think that would be for if that was made whole again?
The buyers that I've talked to in the last year have been so interested and blown away by that building, and they feel like when that is restored, that will be like the diamond jewel of all of Southwest Michigan for entertainment and for dining and retail. They want to bring in the most unbelievable things there, and it lends itself to that.
Yeah.
Now, as of just a few months ago, it has brand new street, brand new curbs and sidewalks, and a gorgeous corner by the market building, kitty corner. And so, Benton Harbor is definitely on the major upswing, and that could be major focal point.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we're at the end of talking about these two things. We got another short video to look at. Let's look at that now, and then we'll come back and talk about that for a couple minutes, and then we'll wrap the show up. We'll be right back.
Very early, I think around 1907 or so, or 05, they had a member joined by the name of Harry Kirkham that was a professional photographer, and Ben designated him to give his life to photos. That's all you do all day, every day, is capture everything you see. And because he was a phenomenal photographer, he knew how to do settings, he knew how to stage things. He had his own photography studio right down in the park. So if you brought your kids and your wife for a day from Chicago, you could have a setting in their beautiful little setting park, and he would sell pictures of what he took from the park, and you could buy your own photos, and people do that to this day, right? And you pay a lot of money when you go to an amusement park, but they did that back in the very beginning. And because he was so devoted, and he was out there from the crack of dawn until it was closed, he was photographing people and life. And so I have over 10,000 photographs, and I don't have a fraction of what's out there. How many parts of American history have that available? Or maybe none. So that's an amazing thing. They say a photo is 1,000 words. Well, how multiply that times what he took. So it's extremely well documented history through photos, but they also documented everything.
All right, we're back. Chris, this guy, I didn't say going in, I kind of wanted to be a surprise. He is of all of the House of David members that I've learned about, he's my favorite, just because he was a documentarian, and he documented thousands upon thousands of photos. And it really is I would say, a documentarian's dream to have all of that at your fingertips. There's video too, and in the documentaries you get to see some of that video. It's just, he, to me, made the biggest impact on the House of David in being able to tell their story later.
By far.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you study history and you come across the Civil War or major parts of history, Henry Ford, that kind of thing, what's documented is what tells the story. Harry Kirkham came to the House of David super early, right when they started. There's way over 10,000 photographs. So yeah, when we were talking earlier,
you had to have some members that probably saw him coming and took off. Oh no! But then you saw members that all they wanted to do was be in front of the camera, because there's this one great shot that's a time lapse where they probably took 3 or 4 different shots just to put them all together. And this one guy, he's in every one of those shots, moving from place to place.
Right.
Really cool stuff. But to me, to be able to have that stuff, when I look at sometimes Ken Burns documentaries, they're a lot of slow. You'll see a picture that might be up for 20 seconds, and that might be because there's not many pictures to draw from. Where with the House of David, I mean, every 4 or 5 seconds it's a new picture because we had so much to work with.
Thank God. I mean, that guy was phenomenal, and the quality is phenomenal. They say a picture tells 1,000 words, right? So, like, think of that.
Yeah, what does 20,000 photos say?
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and then even on top of that, the file that you gave me to make the documentary with was 10,000 photos or whatever it may be.
Right.
And I had an opportunity to go to Shiloh and into their archives, and I would have to say they probably have 10 times more than what's there. They're then old instruments, and just the photos that they had were amazing and cataloged, and just beautiful stuff.
Unbelievable. Like Fort Knox.
Yeah. And that's in the documentarian world, which I'm in, it's almost unheard of. You're like, okay, we want to tell a story from 100 years ago. Where do we get the media? Maybe he is the founder of getting your picture taken at the amusement park when you're going by on the roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm sure he is.
Amazing stuff. But Chris, we've come to the end of this show. Want to make sure people tune in next week when we're going to be talking about the amusement park, kind of an overview of the amusement park, trains, ice cream, the beer garden, vaudeville, the zoo.
Baseball. Yeah.
Baseball, in which we'll be featuring baseball a little bit later in the series, and can't wait for that one. So until then, this is the House of David, Life Everlasting. We'll see you next time.
Telling incredible stories and keeping the past alive, Moondog Productions is proud to bring you the great history of the House of David in Southwest Michigan. Find out more about Moondog Productions by going online to moondogpro.net.
The House of David Museum is proud to tell the stories of Southwest Michigan's rich history. Located in St. Joseph, Michigan, the House of David Museum has a wide array of memorabilia for your viewing pleasure. To schedule a tour, call 269-325-0039.
Post-production facilities provided by True Blue Farms in Grand Junction, Michigan. True Blue Farms has been contributing to the overall health and wellness to people all over the world for over 100 years with blueberries. Find out more at truebluefarms.com.
Telling Southwest Michigan's history through radio and podcast. Rob Byrd's Moondog Show and the House of David podcast are happy to be a part of telling this great story. Find Rob Byrd's Moondog Show or the House of David podcast at podbean.com.